It's a pleasure to be with everyone today. As the agenda states, it's pretty simple. Five little things we're going to go through that are very relevant to anyone in education, from the makeup of the students and the user population that entails, to just the explosion of digital technology and the risks that are associated when we take our eye off of the principal concern, which is resilience. And we're going to get into those five questions, five capabilities, five things that any school or district can benefit from. And so with that, we'll get into some of this material, which is primarily based on some research that we put out recently around what we see in those education environments when it comes to their complexity, as well as any of the concerns that they have with their security. And again, joining me today is the person who has her finger on the pulse of the education industry and sector more than anyone else here at Absolute, and that's SURITA BAINS. And so she's going to be also providing her insights. And as we get into the first one here, one of the things we say, SURITA, of course, is savvy students. I think that might be putting it mildly, and probably a little more politically correct. But I'd be curious, some of the things that you've noted has been just the increase of cyber attacks and cyber incidents that are happening in schools. And when you consider that many of the users are also minors, children in many cases, this is a growing concern. And I know that there's some things there that pique your interest that I'm sure you'd like to share.
Hi. There is so much that we see on the savvy student side. What we hear from our customers, that they're getting very ingenious in what they do, very entrepreneurial. That's probably a good word for it. You know, we hear stories of students setting things up technology-wise at their home and then leveraging that for basically access and things that they want to do at school. Really, the stories they kind of go on and on. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And oftentimes what we see at Absolute, one of the things that we kind of hang our hat on is the fact that a lot of security degradation and security gaps that open up is unintended. No one's meaning for this to happen. A student's just sharing something with another student, and they're taking their devices home and they're on a different network, and then they rejoin the district's domain, and things like that happen. No one's really intending for negative things to occur, but oftentimes, especially when you think of something like ransomware, there are critical pieces of information that schools have. And just think about what's inside of an SIS. It's no wonder then that such organizations are the number 2 target. And it's actually having a real world impact. In Flagstaff, we saw earlier this year shutting down school because of ransom attacks. When it came to what happened in Louisiana, the governor of the state declared a state of emergency because of ransomware attacks. And that map of where K-12 security incidents are occurring continues to get dense, where you can't really see the land behind it. There are so many things that continue to pop up and continue to be a concern for school administrators, IT teams. And we'll get into it here in a moment, because I know the research that we put out, SURITA, illustrates this, but these are overworked people. They have a lot to do. They've gone through a digital explosion in their organizations, and oftentimes the incidents that strike aren't necessarily, again, anyone's fault. It's just this overwhelming complexity, and it's hard to keep up. And one of the things too, folks, we kind of put these things together as an interactive conversation. And so think of yourself as eavesdropping on a dialogue between SURITA and myself. But one of the things we want to do is always bring you into that conversation. And we do so by throwing out a few questions and seeing how everyone responds. And our first one up here is private VPNs. We're talking about savvy students. They want to get to content. They want to get to BitTorrent or whatnot. A friend tells them about something, but how often is that happening? Just want to throw it out there across the industry. How many private VPN apps would you suspect are inside of K-12 environments? So, option number 1, 20, 40, 60, or is it above 70 even? And so we're going to launch the poll part here, and we again encourage you to chime in and see what you think. Now, we of course know some of the data there, so surprise, we know what's behind door number 2. But we would encourage everyone to chime in and what their thoughts are. And the bar graphs are going right now, and we have a little bit of folks saying 20, some 40, but most are saying above 70, and it's probably a leading question. But Sarita, anything that you observe in this dynamic and what you see?
Well, I was going to ask if you heard the loving term that I've heard used for this, which is the whack-a-mole problem. So, this is again, students are incredibly smart and creative at what they do, but they come up with a way to get around web filters. And so folks, they close that loop, and then they find another way, and then you close that hole, and then you find another way. But it's just like an ongoing sort of mission, day in, day out, month in, month out, that folks are sort of battling this. So that there's that love-hate whack-a-mole problem that folks are facing every day.
Yeah, it really is. And the interesting thing about the arcade game is that the moles stay in front of you. They're right here, and so you can see them popping up. In a K-12 environment of today, after this digital revolution and so many go into one-to-one, you're surrounded by all the moles, and we don't have eyes in the back of our heads. We're going to allow everyone to finish answering here, and then we'll do the big reveal of what we see. Okay, let's see where everybody landed. Around 50% of you are saying there's got to be 70 plus, which when you think about it, that's a lot. That many different
that is a lot.
Private VPN apps that are in use by students in K-12 environments. And those of you that said more than 70, you're right. One of the things that we observe in our research is that it's over 300. Now, if we had put something like that out there, above 300, that probably would have made everyone go and answer that way. So we wanted to be a little more honest about expectations, but it really is incredible how many of these unique applications that we find in K-12 environments where students are frankly tunneling around web defenses because, again, they just have an ambition to get to something. The school's defenses are preventing that. And so they go to YouTube and say, how do I get around my school defense? Really, go YouTube that. Go search how to get around school internet block. You can do that, and you'll see many of these culprits come up. And the interesting thing to me, Sarita, was not just how many there are, but how many K-12 organizations are affected, where it's almost a coin toss if this is in your environment.
It's a coin toss. And, one thing to think about, too, I was having a conversation with some, I think, folks yesterday about this very specific thing. It's about what is behind those VPNs that are being introduced to your environment, right? So you've got a student, again, who just wants to get around the filter because they want to get to Fortnite. They want to get to whatever it is that they want to get to. Their filter's not letting them. So they're introducing this piece of technology to allow them to do that. What they don't know is that is actually adding other risks to the environment, right? Is there malware with that free VPN that they're using? Is there something else fishy going on with that technology? So you don't know what you're getting. It's really something to think about when you're seeing this kind of problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. And just a couple of things that also reinforce this conundrum is that, when we break it down, we see things like we see more than 10 devices in a given district with these unique applications on them. Again, those are unique devices. And so there can be even more devices with varying numbers because some devices may have the exact same private VPN or rogue web proxy, but there's 10 unique ones on those devices. And in addition, one of the things that is laudable is that when it comes to K-12, they actually use client-side firewalling much more than the enterprise does.